Welcome everyone on this Algolia live coding session. It's the second part of our 3-video episode about building a store locator in React using Algolia, Mapbox and Twilio. We are live today on both Twitch and YouTube. If you have questions, ask them in the chat. I'll answer them at the end of this live coding. And without waiting more, let's start. Once more, thank you for joining us. I'm super thrilled to have you for this second episode of our series. But first, and very quickly, because you know me, let's do a quick recap on who am I. My name is Clément. I'm still a software engineer. I'm still a code mingler, loving to play with APIs of any types. I'm available on social networks, in Clubhouse, in Twitter, at Clément Sauvage. And still a tiny disclaimer, I'm not an Algolian, I love them, but I won't and I can't endorse for the company. Once you know that and once this small disclaimer is made, let's switch back to the store locator. And before we have a look at the final app preview and before we make a quick rewind on what we've done last week, let's quickly remind ourselves what we mean by store locator and what is the role they play nowadays. Of course, you will need to find in this store locator the closest store so that you can go and pick up your items. And also, they played a super crucial role in this time of COVID-19 pandemic. Knowing that due to curfew and lockdowns in most of countries around the world, stores and retailers had to reinvent the way they are interacting with their customers and proposing a BOPIS like this for buy online, pick up in store offers the possibility for their customers to buy on their app or on their mobile website or my website as well, and then select the nearest store and drive to it or go by foot to it to pick up the items. It's super useful and it's almost the only way to interact with their customer in these troubled times. It can be on the product listing page like on Apple, or it can be also on the checkout page like on the IKEA website. I invite you to go to the latest blog post to see the article. During also the checkout process, the user can find the store and maybe select an alternative way of payment, because shops can also accept physical payment by card. So during the first part of the video last week, we've made an introduction and about what we are doing. We made some example, we've shown some example, and we've made the data indexing. During this part of this video this week, we're going to implement the Geo-search implementation using Algolia Instant Search, and then we're going to create a custom widget with Connect Geo-search provided by Algolia and Mapbox. Next week, we're going to use Algolia autocomplete to search for location using also the Mapbox API, and we're going to implement the click and collect logic using the API provided by our friend at Twilio. Okay, great. So part one, let's recap on what we've done last week. Before diving on every single part we've made last week, I just want to remind you the app we were trying to build. So this is the demo I've built for you. It's basically just a list of stores. I'm managing Spencer & Williams store, which has a dedicated partnership with airports around the world. So basically we have stores almost everywhere. And here we display a list with a menu allowing us to filter shops per services they provide and display them on a map. When we move the map here, the map refreshes automatically with the airport located in this zone. We can click on an airport, and here automatically the map zoom in on the airport selected. Finally, there's also the option to deselect this option, such when I move the map, and so that when I move the map here, the list is not updated. if I re-click on it, I can simply drag 1 inch to get my map updated. Finally, I also want the ability to search for airport. So here, if I search London, and you see that I have a first search, so I can type here London, Greater England, and if I click on London, I get all the airports located in the London area. Perfect. So last week, we have created the account on Clever Cloud, which is going to be our hosting provider. The reason I choose Clever Cloud is mostly because they are French and they are their own infrastructure, so they don't rely on any other big player in the field, and it's also a small startup. So once we got them, we are heading to the console, and we have created an Node.js machine and configured some environment variables to make the machine builds and runs correctly. Once we've done that, Once we've done that, we move to my Gist account, where I provided you a list of Spencer and Williams stores.json. It's basically a huge JSON with a list of 300, more than 3,000, stores around the world, where you can find stores in almost any countries in the world, and at least in any continents in the world. Then we have created our Algolia's index and configured the items. You see the new UI they released yesterday. So here, if I type on index, you see that I have on my Twitch live coding all the stores with here the facets. And if I click on configuration on the right, I got all the searchable attributes, so name, country, cities. If I click on ranking, then you got the popularity in a descending order. As a friendly reminder, we got here the popularity of our airport, meaning that if the score is high, the popularity of the store is high. And finally, if I click on configuration on the right, and if I click on facets here, I got basically 2 lists, countries and services, which are displayed here. It will allow us to create some nifty menus to search by country and to search by services. Once this is done, we move to our IDE here. Where is my IDE? Here, where we have created a simple app using Create React App here. If I give a look at my package.json, then I've installed a package named Creco for Create React App Configuration Override, which allows us to override the configuration, especially needed for Tailwind CSS, which use extensively, which is basically using post CSS. And so creco.configure.js allows us to override the default Create React App configuration. Here on the style.postcss.plugins, I'm using Tailwind CSS and autoprefixer. And to notice and to make, Create React App to use Creco, we just need to update our scripts here and change React script per Creco. That's the only thing we need to do. Then we have created our tailwind.config.index and specifying the purge file to tell purge CSS, which is using by Tailwind under the hood, to tell where is our code located, so that once we're going to run the build script to create the production build, well, it won't delete the used classes, so that the package at final build will be as smaller as possible. And finally, in the app.tsx, we just created some very simple HTML to render a page. That's all we've done. Now we got the scaffold for our app. It's time for you to improve it with today's feature. So, let's start to code. But before coding, it's time to talk about Instant Search. Instant Search is Algolia's legacy product. It's help you, based on your data you have on your indices, to build a frictionless user search experience. It's available in most of front-end technologies. So of course, every single JS flavor, or at least the mainstream one. It's available as Vanilla.js, it's available as Angular plugin, as Vue component, and also as React library. And it provides you a bunch of stuff, including search as you type, including filters and facets, sorting, pagination, and more. In fact, the plugin proposes you at least a dozen of available components. So there's a bunch of them available on their documentation. You can find them on algolia.com/doc/guides. And here you have things like a searchable searchable refinement list we're going to build. You have hits and results. You have some bunch of menus like a numeric, like a range input, like a range slider, which is pretty useful for the pricing, by example. You have a rating menu. You have some toggle refinements. You have a pagination, and there's a lot of more. There's a lot more. And also you have some Geo-search plugins made so that you can basically do anything you want using a map. So here, Algolia is providing one. We're going to talk a lot about this Geo-search feature, but Algolia is providing one for Google Maps. But because we are builders, we're going to build one from scratch using Connect Geo-search and Mapbox. But for now, let's focus on instance search. Now we have explored all the widgets Algolia is providing us on their documentation. We can now move back to our code. Here, you got the app I've just slightly updated with a portion of code. It's running here on my desktop on the port 301, sorry, and it's just a simple logo. Okay, I will basically uncomment everything. So here I just have a bunch of dev, and for you to follow along, you can move to the GitHub account /algolia sample /store locator, and you will find this specific state in session 2, adding instance search start. You will find at the end of the session a new branch named session 2, adding instance search end, where you can start from session number 3. Great, so knowing that, I can add the package I need to implement instance search. So for this, I need a few stuff. I need Algolia search, yarn add first. I need Algolia search. I need instance search.js. Instance search.js is the vanilla package, but we need it to get all the TypeScript definitions. And I also need React-instance search-DOM. Why DOM? Because Algolia is providing a package for React Native. So here you will switch to instance search React Native. And I hit enter. Now you get all these three packages. I also need one specific one which contains the TypeScript definition for React Native instance for React instance search DOM. For this, you add to your developer dependencies. So here, yarn add -d to add it as a developer dependency. Add types, because this comes from the strongly typed package from Microsoft, which contains basically all the custom.d.ts. Here I need React instance search and no DOM at this time. Once this is installed, we can now leverage all the components located onto React instance search DOM. So for this, I'm going to just move on top of my file here. I can remove the map, it's not needed at this point. And I'm going to import from React instance search DOM few components. The very first one, and the one which is going to wrap everything, is instance search. Then I will need the configure. which is going to help us configuring a few details. Then I also need hits, which is going to help us listing all the things in our index. And I also need a refinement list, which is going to help us for the facets. We're gonna see this in a very few minutes. Once this is working, I'm gonna save this and I'm gonna uncomment this script. It won't change anything, but it will render and you will see the improvements made on top of this. I'm gonna switch back to here to my local server, and if I switch to my browser, you see that now the screen is splitted onto 3 parts. The header on the top, the blue zone where we're gonna add all the hits, and the green zone where we're gonna add the map in the second part of this video. Great, let's continue. So I'm gonna take that here and I'm gonna include all these parts onto a wrapper named instance search. Here, instance search needs 2 parameters. So I'm gonna comment this, otherwise it's gonna crash, and we're gonna explore what we need to do. Perfect. Assuming that instance search is taking 2 props, search client and index name, you can easily guess what it is. Index name, of course, is the name of the index here in our Algolia dashboard. So here it's Twitch live coding. So I'm gonna move that and type Twitch live coding. Live coding by Livo coding, otherwise it won't work. And here on the search client, we need a search client entity. What is a search client? A search client is the raw object where you're gonna give your API keys and your application ID. For this purpose, and because we're gonna need this search client in other part of application, I've separated this code onto a component here located on the lib folder under a file I named Algolia client. And here this Algolia client has the index name, Twitch live coding, and the search client, which is simply Algolia search, and take process.env the app ID and the API key. For those who are not familiar with the process.env concept, it's made to avoid sharing secret within the app. Basically, if I just copy and paste my API key, and if I commit it publicly, it could be a huge security breach because anyone could have access to my repo, to my Algolia index. So it's definitely not a good idea. So that we put that on a .env here. Where is it? .env.local, where I put my Algolia app ID, my Algolia API key, and later we'll see that in a moment, my Mapbox token. And this local.env will take care of adding every single variables here onto my app. If I prefixed every of those with React _app_, it's because create React app requires, to avoid splitting secret and spoiling secret onto the app, requested this prefix to inject the variable onto the app. Let's move back to my app.tsx. So once I know that, I can simply uncomment this. It won't crash anymore if I provide the information. So search client is going to be simply search client. And search client will be imported from my lib/Algolia client. And here I just make a bit of room between those two opening and closing tags, and I'm copying this into my instance search item. And normally it should work as expected. Okay, it didn't change anything. Right, simply because we didn't say to the Algolia clients, to the instance search instance, to display anything. So it works like a charm. Now let's move forward and add the list of items. To add the list of items onto the blue part here on the side, which is basically 1/4 of the app with the background blue, I need the hit component. And the hits component is an orphan, takes one thing, a hit component. And a hit component brings a function which has one argument, knowing the hit. And here, the hit, this function, returns a component. So here I'm going to just return a div, which takes care of hit dot, and here let's say name, because we know that our hits in the Algolia index here contains a name. I'm gonna save this, and normally if I switch back to my React app, I see on the left here a list of items sorted by popularity. If you check Hartsfield Jackson Atlanta Airport, it has the highest popularity, followed by Chicago O'Hare, etc., etc. If I check that, you see that Hartsfield, Chicago O'Hare, Capital International, and you see that the popularity is decreasing slowly. Perfect. Great. Now, let's move forward and customize this component. Of course, because this component is not beautiful. So I've added one specific component here on the store. You can find it on the store component, and the store component is simply an article with a bunch of classes, which takes a store. The store is going to be our it, and takes its name, takes its country, take its service and map over it. It's a very basic HTML stuff. So instead of here putting div hit name, I'm going to move this, and I'm going to include store component. And store component takes a store, which is going to be our hit.hit. Is taking a onClick method. For this, we're just going to give him a no-op method. A no-op is a function which gives nothing. And also need a current store, and this current store for now is null. We'll see how to use it a bit later. And finally, as it's a list, I need to provide it a key. And as a key, we're gonna give it here the store, hit.hit.object ID. And here I missed something. I might have missed a closing braces somewhere. I need a closing parenthesis. No? Oh, here. What happened? Let me check that. Give me a sec. Here, store component with a key, with a store, with an onClick method, and with a current store. And we need a closing tag here. And because I'm using TypeScript, I'm just gonna give this hit a type, knowing that the tip of this type gonna be GeoHit. And I'm gonna import it. GeoHit is located under types here. It's just a TypeScript definition of my object stored in my index. Now if I save this, there is a fail to compile because I miss an item, an assets, in user src component, store component, can't find the shop center. I'm gonna just check that here. So I need dot assets / shop center. It's just the icon on the left. And here, if I check now my React app, I have a very neat representation of my shops. Great. The only thing now is that this kind of header is pretty big, so I'm gonna change that either to use a more nifty header I've already made for you, which is located onto a header component. And if I store this, oh, it's empty. It's empty because I forget to do it. Here it's empty, so I'm gonna just copy it from here. This header is a React function component with any props. It's gonna have children on the third video, but for now I don't need it. So I'm just gonna return a bunch of HTML here. It should be fine. So children here is not needed at this time, and children here, as you see, is fully optional. I'm gonna save this, and here I got a pretty neat header. Great. Now we got all these nifty shops. Let's dive into adding some faceting to our app. Now we got all these airports working properly. We see that they are not properly located, meaning that I live in northern France, so I should see on top of this list stores which are located closest to my house. This could be done using another component I've described already in this and imported already in my code. It's here the configure component. So right under my instance search opening component, I'm going to add a configure item, a configure component here, and passing one prop. I can close it right away. This prop is around lat LNG via IP. And I'm going to pass to this component true. If I save this, you see that now the list is refreshed with the closest airport to me. So here I live in Lille, so of course the closest airport is Léquin. Then the closest is Ostend, which is located in Belgium, and Brussels, which is about 100 kilometers from home. Perfect, so this is working. Now let's add faceting to our app. As a friendly reminder, you can add faceting attributes to your index by clicking on configuration and then on facets. Here I have two attributes for faceting, country and services. I want to do it for services. So here on my code, on top of my its component, I'm going to add a new div to separate content, and I'm going to add here a refinement list. And the refinement list takes, I can close it, it takes an attribute. This attribute is a string, and I want this string to be service with an S. If I've saved this, I will now have in my React app a list of services available. So nearby deliveries, open 24/7, free Wi-Fi, and package pickup. If I click on it, I will have a refined list which fits with the required item. I see that the Léquin airport, which is the closest to home, have only free Wi-Fi. So if I click on package pickup here, you see that the Léquin disappears. If I unselect it, it reappears. It's as easy. As the app is working now, I can get rid of this background color, which is a bit weird in our design. What I will also do is I'm gonna change this huge logo by a proper component I made. So I'm gonna switch back to my code here. I'm gonna remove this BG red stuff. I'm gonna remove this BG blue stuff, and I'm gonna replace this header, which is a bit huge, by a component I've made for you, which is located onto header. You can take a look. It's once more a simple HTML, but with a bunch of classes, a bunch of CSS and Tailwind classes. So here I'm gonna click on app.tsx, and I'm gonna just place my header component with a capital H. And here I might need to import it, and here it is. I save this, and you will see that here my header is way cooler. I also can remove one. Now we got these things working. Also, the thing I want to add is the ability to select one and to keep the state selection. As said, to handle that, I'm gonna use the useState hook inside my app. So I'm gonna first create here a current store and set current store, which is gonna be null by default. And here I'm gonna replace the current store by current store here on my store component. And finally, the thing I'm gonna do here is that when I'm gonna click on the store component, I'm gonna change the current store based on the one returned by the onClick function. So here I'm gonna replace those two curly braces by set current store and passing to this method the store returned by the function here. This gonna be used onto the store component, which is fairly simple here. You see that on my store component, I have an article with a non-click parameter here, non-click props, synthetic event, which here trigger the onClick props method with the store passed here as an argument. If I save this and if I go back to my screen and if I click on Lequin by example, here the selected store and the selected state is preserved. And when I click on Brussels National here, it's working. What it does, it's extremely simple. Here, I'm just checking if on the use effect, when the current store is changing, I'm just checking if the current store here is the same as the store object ID. In this case, I'm just applying a custom CSS classes. Great. We are done, with this instant search stuff. Now, let's move to creating a custom widget with Connect Geo-search, but first, let's create a map. So now, let's add a map to our project and then implement Connect Geo-search to link this map to Algolia. As I said previously in this video, Algolia is already providing in its widget library a map connected to Google Maps. But we are builders, and I want to show you how to use Connect Geo-search to handle another map providers, as there is plenty of them around the world in the wild. Of course, you surely know Google Maps. It's out there in the world since 2005, if I'm right. But there is loads of them. There is, of course, free and open source solutions. We're going to talk about it a bit later. There is Nokia here. There is Jog Maps, a French solution. But there also is one of the leading providers in the world, which is Mapbox. I really love them for one specific reason, is that their SDK, first of all, is super simple to use, and secondly, is based on LeafLeft. LeafLeft is an open source JavaScript library for mobile friendly, but the only issue here is that the maps are kind of ugly. So here, Mapbox is leveraging them to add a layer of design on top of it, and using the Mapbox Studio, you can even customize very, very precisely your design. There is a bunch of wrapper made for React. We're going to use one. And also Mapbox is providing a super powerful geocoding API, which is connected to Foursquare to list all points of interest. And this can include your own stores. So that's the reason I've chosen Mapbox to create my map. To use Mapbox, it's fairly simple. You click on sign up, you fill the data they requested, knowing that your username is the way you're going to connect on their platform. I already have an account, so let's switch back and let's log in to see how an account is presented. If I click on sign in here, I arrive on my dashboard and I see a bunch of API tokens. These API tokens are used to display the maps. So here I made one for Algolia store locator. I'm gonna copy it here. I can then close Mapbox. I don't need it anymore. And I'm gonna add this token onto my local.env here, React App Mapbox token. I'm gonna erase this one and copy this one. It's gonna be perfectly suitable. Now I will request two packages. One is React Mapbox GL and the other is Mapbox GL. If you are working from the repository I already gave you, they are already pre-installed, so you just have to type yarn install to add them. The reason I've already added them is that I've created for you a simple wrapper using React Mapbox GL. Here, the component is map, and it's a very basic map using React Map, which is provided here by React Mapbox GL, where we set up here the environment with the access token, as well as in the lib, it's using process.env.map token, and then it renders a simple map with a zoom control. Two simple things around this map is that to use Mapbox GL onto a Create React App project, you need to update your Quaker config, because when you install Mapbox GL from npm, it arrives to you already bundled as an ESM plugin. So you need to tell Babel and its loader to ignore Mapbox GL plugin. That's the only thing you need to add to make a map functional. So using this, which is already available on the package, I'm just going to my app here, app.tsx, and on the part which were blue previously, I just need to import the component. Here is my map, and here I need to import it. Why is it what no and def? Of course, because I need to import this map. So import map from map. I hit save, and if I've done my job right, if I go back to my Explorer on my React app, I should see here a magnificent map centered on London. Then we also need to provide as a second parameter the React state. Sorry, it's not React, it's map state, of course, here, so that we're gonna make sure, and we're gonna expose the state to the autocomplete, which is gonna be way better for us. Sorry. So in the props, I'm gonna add two things. I'm gonna add first current store, and current store we have for now an any property, but we're gonna edit that in a few seconds, and also it will have on click marker. This is a method which takes a parameter, and we'll name that marker, and we'll give that an any type for now, and this will return void. Great. Assuming that we'll have to manipulate coordinates, so latitude and longitude, in my types here. So in the folder on the left, I added next to store its LNG latitude type. It's simply an array of two numbers, but writing LNG lat reminds you that it takes as first parameter the longitude, and as the second argument, item in the array, sorry, the latitude. It's super helpful because you just can't imagine how easy it is to mix those two. I personally never recall which one is the longitude and which one is the latitude. If someone has a memory tip to handle that, please write it in the chat. Thank you. So once this is done, I'm gonna change current store by here LNG lat, which I'm gonna import from types, and same thing on click on marker. I will change this by LNG lat. For the map state here, I'm gonna just copy what I've already made here. So latitude, longitude, and zoom, which are the default one to display the map. So latitude is a number. Longitude is also a number. And zoom is also a number. Yay! So once we got that, we just need a bunch of other stuff. So this is, I think, is not working because I miss two properties, knowing current store on-click marker. I'm going to change that in the app. So here I'm going to add an on-click marker, which can take here something. So it's basically a store coordinate, which is going to return something null for the moment. And I'm also adding a current store, which is basically our current store. So current store dot geolog dot, and it's lng lat, so lng first, and then current store dot geolog dot latitude. And here current store can be optional, so I'm just gonna change this and add a question mark, and if it doesn't exist, I'm gonna return no. And current store here is not set up as an optional in the map props, so I'm just gonna move back to my here map, and I'm gonna set up current store lng lat or no. Here in my state, I'm gonna also create a current store, which gonna be by default instantiated on this dot props dot current store, or an array of 0, 0. And I got an error here. So if there's a current store, then I'm gonna implement this. Otherwise, I handle 0, 0, which is located right in Africa, if I'm right. But it's not a big deal here. I don't have any stores located at this coordinate. That's cool. So we are moving forward. Perfect. So now in my state, I need to add markers. My markers are the place where the store are, and here it's lng lat array. Fine. And I also need an indices on to know if the users have made an action on the map. We're going to use it to avoid excessive rendering. So I'm going to call this is user interaction. It's going to be a boolean. And I'm also going to add a user interaction enabled. This is way different because this is the action. This is the boolean, which represents if the little checkbox is checked or not. So here I'm going to set up another boolean, and those two I'm going to set up there in my default state here, and the first one is going to be false, and the second one, sorry, is going to be true. And I missed something here. I need also markers. And markers is going to be an empty array at the beginning. Now I think I am good on the state definition. Yep, I am. Whoa, that's quite a thing. Now we need to handle the hits from the component. So for this, I'm just going to write a method named use it. I'm pretty sure of it. Named component will receive props, and here I don't need the next context, so I'm gonna get rid of it. So before raging on the chat, yes, I know that component will receive props is deprecated since React 17, if I'm right. I think it might be also 16, but for now, Algolia didn't provide documentation on how to handle this thing using hook. So I've decided to handle this using this method. once the documentation will be released, I'll be more than happy to update this portion of code. So now we got this. I'm just gonna change a few things. So here I'm gonna add the curly braces missing, and from the const here, using the destructuring parameter, I'm gonna export from next props. I'm gonna take the hits, and I'm gonna take current store. Current store just to store with an E, just to check if, and just to color the icon if needed. So the first thing, if here the current store is different from this.props.current store, I could also use state, it's up to you. Then I'm gonna just do a set state of current store. Here, what happened? It seems that I don't have a current store in my state. Why so? So, identify current type is not someone to map set previous state. It seems to here that I don't have a current store in my state. That's all. So current store is lat lng lat, sorry, or no, depending. Number is not assignable to number, array is not assignable to number. What did I current store lng lat or no? I don't know why it's buggy here. I can remove this. And is it still complaining? No. Okay, fine. So this is good, and once the store will be updated, I need to do a bit something, meaning I need to center the map on the store. I will do this in a few minutes, and then I'm gonna handle the hits now. So if first the hits has a length, so basically if it's superior to 0, because 0 in JavaScript is a falsy value, so it will break the if. And if it's is different than this.props.hits, then what I'm going to do, I'm going to parse all the hits, take their geographical points, and create lng lat object, which is an array basically. So I'm going to create lng lat array and store them as my markers. Here I have the code already made because I don't want to type it. It would be a bit obvious. So here I'm going to take this and I'm going to paste it here. So basically I'm creating a variable named markers. This is an array of lng lat, and I'm mapping hits to extract their geolog, and from the geolog, which has lat lng parameters, and from here I'm creating geolog lng geolog latitude array, which is the scheme of my lng lat type. And from here I'm going to do a set state, this.set state, and I'm going to simply store markers. And from here, same thing as the current store stuff right here, I'm going to center the map on the first marker. So using the callback method here, I'm going to center the map on the first marker. The method used to center the map is a bit difficult and a bit long, so I'm going to copy it and I'm going to explain it. So here the method is named center on map on coordinates, and coordinates take lng lat. and I can also move that to coordinates. So what it's going to do, it's going to first check if it's a user interaction. So if it's false, because I want to avoid infinite renderings. So if it's only if it's false, then I take the refine from the props and I'm calling set state and I'm enabling interactions. If I'm enabling interactions, then once it's done, so I will rerun into this method and I'm gonna fly to the coordinate. Essential here is from the map at Mapbox, and it's avoiding the movement if the browser has motion reduced parameter enabled. And I think that the map is not the exact type. Okay, so here it's not this.map but this.map. So essential false, meaning that if the browser has reduced motion enabled, well, it will just move without flying. The center is coordinate and the zoom is 7. And then I'm gonna refine the map, so using it's calling a method on Algolia to, based on the boundaries, basically just refresh all the data. So this is done. I'm gonna save it. Once this is made, I need another method, and the last one is on map interaction. What is this on map interaction? It's basically simply telling that if I move the map, or if I drag the map, or if I zoom the map, then I will need to perform some operation. It's basically the same thing as here, with one more parameters, one specific one here, which is user interaction enabled. And it seems that I missed it in my state. Did I write it? Oh yeah, I missed an A. So okay, I'm gonna just remove. I'm gonna just place my enabled here, and I'm gonna add an A here, and also and I will also add an A here. Normally this should be fine. If I saved it, okay. Now I will take this method and I need to declare it on the constructor because I'm going to use it as row in the component. So I'm going to create here a constructor, sorry. Here a constructor takes props, and props P-R-O-P-S, and props are of type Geo-search provided, and map props. I need to pass props to super because it's extended the component, and then I need to copy the method which calls the state basically. So this one first here, I need to bind them, and also this one. And to save it. And finally, I need also to add this on map interaction to my map here. So on move end. So basically, when I zoomed out or when I dragged out, I will add here this dot on map interaction. The good thing is on move end sends two parameters, the original method, which is first the map and secondly the event, and our on map interaction takes one parameter, the map. So it will, sorry for the little word game, it will map the map from the event and the map from this on map interaction. I can save this, and normally this should working, except that the pins, the little marker, won't render because we basically didn't add them to the map. So if I go on map.tsx, I got some red which is not displayed, so this should be fine. I can switch back to my application and I see that the map is rendered. Perfect. I need then to add and display the markers. So this is fairly simple. You could do it by yourself. You can go back to the map here, and once you've done that, you can here on the zoom control add a fragment because the map takes only one child, and we need to add the zoom control first and then the markers. So here I open and close curly braces, and I will add this dot state dot markers dot map, and I'm going to iterate over them. So it's going to an item, it's a marker, which is a type of LNG-let, and this is going to be between parentheses, and here I'm just returning the marker from React Mapbox.jl. It takes coordinates, and here I'm going to pass marker. Great. Here it won't return something as well because I need to place something on the marker, and here on top of my file I will import two icons. So the first is a React component as marker unselected from, and here it's located onto my assets folder, so it's marker not without status, and here I will also use marker selected from marker selected.svg. Okay, now I've imported the marker. I can just set up those here on the map. So here I'm gonna just say that for now I just want to import marker, not marker, sorry, marker unselected. Great. One thing now, I just need to refresh you and to update the map. So I'm gonna call this dot center map on coordinates, and this is going to take the current store. And why is it a problem here? Well, yes, I need to check if there's actually a current store. So I'm going to do this dot state dot current store, and to make sure that the current store is existing, I'm going to do current store and current store here. And then I need to do the exact same thing on the markers thing. So I'm going to change markers here by markers 0 to center on the selected one, to center on the first return by the hits. Normally this should display markers on the map. And there's an error. Okay, because this .map.say.map is not what I call, it's I have a typo here. I need to remove here map.state.map because I've edited the reference, and it should be good at this time. Yay! I got my markers, and if I move the map, it refresh in real time. If I zoom in, oh, there's no airport in this area. If I zoom out, the list is updated with the most popular ones. If I drag it, great. And if we take a look here at the network tab, you see the rapidity of the request. You see that it takes something like less than 150 milliseconds. You have to know that I'm based in France, as you know, and I've selected a server, an Algolia server in the US for Pacific watches and Canadian watches to be faster than I am. So if I had chosen initially a server, an Algolia server in France, an Algolia data center in France, it would be in real time. Really, I mean, really in real time. Great. So now we need to add a tiny something before closing this video. It's the little box on the top saying that I don't want to update when I move the map. It's kind of weird, but it can happen. So let's do that. I'm gonna switch to my map, and I have a component on the map folder which is search as moving. It's a simple div with an input here, and it has default checked and on change, which are two things I'm passing as props. So I'm gonna go back to my maps, and here on after the closing of React Map, I'm gonna add search as moving. Checked is contained in state. It's this.state.user interaction enabled, and unchanged is simply the method which gonna call setState on this specific parameter. So here I just do setState, opening closing curly braces, and type user interaction enabled. And I need also to close this, otherwise it won't work. I saved it, and here I got my little map. If I uncheck this button and if I move the map here, the results are not updated anymore. But if I re-click on the map, on this button, and if I drag the map, it's updated. See how fast and how easy it is. Isn't it great? I'm sure it is. Last thing to do before closing this video is adding the select store. So this is fairly simple. I'm just gonna go back to the store, and here on the lib, I have created a compare position method. It basically compares just two positions. So if the current store positions is equal to the marker position, well, it means that it's the same position, so it should be the selected marker. Okay, if I go back to my app and I click on Glasgow, for example, here it does nothing because the map doesn't know, well, knows about the selected store, but doesn't know how to handle this. So I'm gonna go back to my app, and here I'm gonna, on my map.tsx, I'm gonna just switch here marker unselected by opening curling closing curly braces, add here compare position, and from compare position I'm going to take the current store, this .state.current store, and I'm going to compare it to my marker. If it's the same, then it's the marker selected. If not, it's the marker unselected. How cool is that? Let's check that on our app. Here, you see that the Glasgow is colored on purple. If I go back to here on Heathrow, which is located on the east of London, if I click on Heathrow, you see that automatically it's colored onto purple. It's simple, isn't it? Okay, we've done for today. As a recap, we've added instant search on the left with the refinements, and we've added the map. We've made a lot of work around the map, adding the pins, connecting Geo-search, and adding this little box. So the code I've made with you today gonna be on a branch named session 2 instant search end, so that we're gonna be able to start on this point next week, and also you will be able to run this by yourself. Just remember to change on the environment variable the create .env.local, and here create add your own values. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I really loved recording it with you live on YouTube and YouTube and Twitch, and I'll see you next week, same time, 7 p.m. on Wednesday, and we will add autocomplete and the click and collect logic. Thank you for watching. My name is Clement. I'm a software engineer, and so this is about next week schedule. I don't think I've seen question in the chat, so I'm gonna skip this. My name is Clement, I'm a software engineer, and I'm an entrepreneur based in Lille, in France. I love recording this episode with you, and I see you next week, same time, on Twitch and Algolia. On Twitch and YouTube. Sorry about that. Goodbye.